You know, during the pre-spawn, the bass can really be related to a lot of different areas on these lowland reservoirs. You know, I'm talking about places on the Tennessee River like Gunnersville, Chickamauga. You know, some lakes have grass, some of them don't have grass. They've got gravel, they've got ledges, they got rocks, and you got to be able to cover a lot of water. And I need baits that are efficient in that particular zone and that are going to trigger bass in these cooler water temperatures for this time of year. So 3 baits that you have to have is 1, a jerkbait. You know, a jerkbait is just a great cold water bait. It's something I have tied on basically any time of the year, but especially in the spring. A Strike King red eye shad, this thing is just money this time of year. It's so efficient. If you do have grass, it's great. You can get it down into the grass, rip it free, kind of yo-yo it through those areas. Again, cover a lot of water. It's perfect for a lot of these flatter banks and flatter bays and some of these grass edges, river channel drops and things like that that have hydrilla or milfoil on them. A red eye shad is just a premium springtime bait to begin with. And then last but not least is a thunder cricket. You know, a bladed jig catches big fish, and this is the new fire crawl color. And that's something this time of year that you really got to be focused and think about, is that a lot of these fish are focused on crawfish. Whether they're around rocks or grass, it holds a ton of crawfish. So these browns, reds, and chartreuse crawl colors are all going to be really good colors to pick based on the time of the year and the water clarity that you're faced with. So the thunder cricket is one that I love to fish. If I've got grass, for sure I'm going to throw this bait around it. You know, I want to get it down to where I'm clipping through that grass, and it doesn't matter if it's milfoil, hydrilla, eelgrass, whatever it is. This bait is just phenomenal. You get great vibration, displaces a lot of water, and these fish are really focused on using their lateral line this time of year, and there's not a bait in your tackle box that really puts off more vibration than a thunder cricket. So I'm just going to choose the size for the depth of the zone that I'm fishing. You know, if I've got a deeper edge, I'll go all the way up to a 3/4 ounce version. You know, if it's shallow grass, and a lot of times you'll see little warming trends this time of the year, and these fish will get real shallow, you may have to go all the way down to a 3/8 ounce and fish it up there in a foot or 2 foot of water. So that's the beauty of the thunder cricket. It's real versatile for the depth, and it's easy to control it because of the lift that blade provides. You know, the jerkbait for me is something that is just dynamite, and it really stands out when that water gets a lot of clarity to it this time of year. If it's muddy, a jerkbait is not my first choice, but when that water gets real clear, and a lot of these lakes in this region of the country right now, they're going to get a lot of clarity to them, and these fish will travel a long distance, even in that colder water, to come up and bite a jerkbait. So this is the standard 300 series. You know, if I'm fishing a deeper highland reservoir, say like a Table Rock or maybe a Lake Lanier or a Hartwell or something like that, I may go to the deep diving version. I just want to keep that bait above the fish's line of sight. A good rule of thumb is if I'm fishing in 10 foot of water, I want it to be somewhere in the middle of that zone. If I'm fishing 20 foot, I want it 10 feet down. So a jerkbait is just a phenomenal pre-spawn bait. I'm going to, match the hatch in these clearer water, shad type colors. And if the water gets a little bit stained, I want some brighter colors. I want something with some chartreuse, some visibility, sexy shad, or maybe even that new siren if that water starts to get real dirty. If I know the bass are sitting in a particular spot, say I've caught a couple off of a ledge and the water's dirty, a jerkbait is still something I'm going to throw through that area, because that start and stop action is something they just cannot pass up this time of the year. If you're seeing a lot of seagulls flying around over the lake, that means there's a shad die-off. I mean, a lot of times they're looking to pick up some of those wounded or dying shad. Absolutely, you want to have a jerkbait tied on if you see that. So watch for the birds and definitely look for that scenario this time of the year. The red-eye shad, again, this is kind of the four-wheel drive of pre-spawn crankbaits, because it's just so efficient to cover a lot of different depth zones. I'm going to rig a couple of different rods with different sizes of line to allow this bait to get to the zone where I can actually tick the grass or tick the bottom in that particular spot that I'm fishing. Now, they do make it in multiple different sizes, and we have different versions. So the tungsten 2-tap comes in a 1/2 and a 3/4 ounce size. It's got that heavy, loud tungsten knocker in it, and I think they run a little bit deeper than the standard red eye. The standard 1/2 ounce red eye shad, though, is my go-to. It's perfect for anywhere from that 5 to 10 foot zone. If I'm fishing it in that deeper area of it, if I'm getting closer to that 7, 8, 9, 10 foot, I'm going to fish it with lighter line. I'm going to cast that bait out there, tight line it down to the bottom, and just fish it more like a jig by use my rod, pulling it to the side, just letting that bait drop back down. And the beauty of a red-eye shad is the way that it falls. So it has this flutter. If you just drop it over the side of the boat and watch it, the way it sinks, it just has a shimmy or a quiver to it. So that's when they like to bite it. I want to rip it up, let it flutter down. Rip it up, let it flutter down. This time of the year, it's not about a straight retrieve. It's about getting that bait yo-yoing, fluttering down. I'm almost fishing it, like I say, like a worm or a jig in that sense, where you're just kind of getting it right along the bottom, right along the cover, slow it down a good bit. I'm gonna use it on a lower speed reel, 6:2 to 1 gear ratio, and just really let this bait do the work for me. It's so efficient for that depth zone. If you don't know where the fish are at, you can cover a ton of water and get into the zone where you start getting a few bites. Once you catch fish in an area, you can go through the whole tackle box and throw different baits or slow down with a jig or something like that if you need to, or a Ned rig or whatever it is. But to find bass this time of year, you gotta have lures that are efficient to do it, and these three do the trick.